Welcome back to The Midnight Mind. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you're new, and please give this video a like. It means a lot. You know what time it is? It's midnight. It's time to enter the mind of Carl Jung. Most people go through life without ever knowing themselves. They live behind a mask. They wake up, put on the face that others expect, and move through their day in roles assigned to them by family, employers, friends, or society. Over time, the mask becomes so familiar that they forget it's a mask at all. They begin to mistake the performance for the person, never questioning whether the life they are living is truly their own. Carl Jung called this the mask of persona. The persona is the version of yourself that you show to the world. It is the polite smile when you're angry. It is the agreeable nod when you want to say no. It's the voice you use at work, the image you project on social media, the endless adjustments you make to avoid rejection and secure approval. It's not false in the sense of being a complete lie. It's simply incomplete. It shows one part of you and hides the rest. The persona has a purpose. Society cannot function without it. We all need some level of adaptation to live together. Without manners, without roles, without restraint, daily life would collapse into chaos. The persona allows us to cooperate, to belong, to build families, communities, and nations. The problem is not that we wear a mask. The problem is that many people forget it's a mask. They identify so completely with the persona that they lose sight of who they are behind it. When this happens, life begins to feel empty. Have you ever felt that no matter what you achieve, something is missing? No matter how much praise you receive, it doesn't satisfy. This is the effect of living through the persona, because when you feed the mask, you starve yourself. Approval from others becomes the fuel you rely on, and like any addiction, the craving only grows stronger. The tragedy is that most people never notice this happening. From childhood, they are trained to put on the mask. Parents say, be a good boy, be a good girl. Teachers say, fit in, follow the rules, do as you're told. Employers demand loyalty, obedience, and the sacrifice of individuality. Slowly but surely, the child learns that acceptance depends on compliance, that love is conditional, that to be safe, one must please. The mask becomes permanent, and the real face disappears into the shadows. You can see the evidence all around you. Look at the man who works tirelessly in a job he hates because his persona is the provider. Look at the woman who always smiles, always agrees, always avoids conflict because her persona is the peacemaker. Look at the young person who posts curated photos online presenting an image of happiness and success, while privately drowning in anxiety and self-doubt. These are the lives governed by the persona. And make no mistake, the cost is heavy. Living only through the persona creates inattention. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. You can do it for a while, but eventually, the effort becomes unbearable. The hidden part of yourself demands to be acknowledged, and if you continue to deny them, they erupt in ways that can damage your life through burnout, depression, failed relationships, or sudden crisis of identity. So, the first step in truly knowing yourself is to question the mask. Ask yourself, who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when I am not performing? What do I want when I stop trying to impress? These questions are uncomfortable because they strip away the protection of the persona, but they are essential. For until you separate yourself from the mask, you cannot begin the journey toward your true self. Jung warned that the persona, when mistaken for the whole self, becomes dangerous. It imprisons you in a role, and roles, no matter how successful, cannot satisfy the human soul. You're not only a job title. You're not only a parent, a partner, a citizen, or a follower. These roles may describe part of your life, but they do not define the totality of your being. If you let them define you completely, you'll always feel that something is missing, because something is missing. You. Think of an actor on stage. He wears a costume, speaks his lines, and the audience applauds. But when the play ends and the curtain falls, He removes the costume and becomes himself again. Most people, however, never take off the costume. They play the same role long after the audience has gone. They live as if the script was written by someone else, never daring to step off the stage and into their own life. The question then is simple but profound. Are you living as yourself or as your mask? Are you chasing goals that truly matter to you, or are you fulfilling the expectations of others? Are your beliefs truly yours, or were they inherited without question? These are not easy questions to ask, but until you ask them, you will remain a prisoner of the persona. To know yourself, you must first recognize the mask. You must admit that much of what you present to the world is a performance. That doesn't make you dishonest. It makes you human. The key is not to destroy the persona. It has its place. But to stop confusing it with your true identity. Once you see it for what it is, you can begin the deeper work of uncovering what lies beneath. And beneath the persona lies the shadow, the hidden side of the self, the parts of you that were rejected, disowned, or repressed. It's here that your true self waits to be discovered. Once you begin to question the mask, you uncover something far more challenging: the shadow. Jung described the shadow as everything you hide, not only from the world, but often from yourself. These are the parts of you that were shamed, denied, or suppressed. They're the impulses that didn't fight the role you were told to play, anger you were punished for, ambition you were told was selfish, desires you were taught to be ashamed of. All of these pieces, rejected in childhood or silenced in adulthood, gather in the dark. Many people make the mistake of believing that if they hide the shadow, it will simply disappear. They convince themselves, I'm not jealous, I'm not angry, I'm not selfish. They polish their persona to appear virtuous, agreeable, and in control. But the shadow doesn't vanish. It waits. It hides beneath the surface, shaping your reactions in ways you don't notice. And when the pressure builds too high, it erupts, often at the worst possible moment. Think of the person who insists they are calm and reasonable, yet explodes in rage when slightly provoked. Or the individual who loudly declares they are unselfish, yet manipulates others for their own advantage. These are not accidents. They are the shadow breaking through the cracks of denial. The more you repress it, the more power it gains. And the more power it gains, the more it sabotages your life. This is why self-knowledge is so rare. It's not that people cannot discover themselves. It's that they're afraid to. They're afraid of what they'll find in the shadow. They fear that if they admit to envy, anger, or selfishness, they'll be unworthy of love. And so they hide. They pretend. They maintain the mask, even as the hidden self grows restless beneath it. The tragedy is that by hiding the shadow, they also hide their strength. For within the shadow is not only darkness, but light. The anger you repress may contain courage. The envy you deny may reveal ambition. The selfishness you condemn may point towards self-respect. These traits, disowned and driven underground, can become destructive. But when acknowledged, they can be transformed into sources of energy and authenticity. The shadow is not only what is ugly in us, but it's also what is vital, powerful, and real. The key, then, is not to destroy the shadow, but to integrate it, to bring it into the light of awareness and make peace with it. Integration doesn't mean acting out every impulse. It doesn't mean giving in to destructive desires. It means admitting their existence, understanding their message, and deciding consciously how to use them. Until you do this, the shadow controls you. Once you do it, you control the shadow. Ask yourself, what do I dislike most in others? What traits provoke me, anger me, or fill me with contempt? Very often, these are the very traits you've buried in yourself. The critic who despises arrogance may be repressing his own desire for recognition. The person who mocks greed may secretly crave wealth. The individual who condemns others for weakness may be terrified of admitting their own vulnerability. Projection is the shadow's favourite disguise. By accusing others, it hides from you. The disciplined man looks inward. Instead of blaming others, he asks, "What is this reaction teaching me about myself?" In that moment of honesty, he reclaims a piece of the shadow. Each time he does this, he grows stronger. Each time he faces what he once denied, he becomes more whole. This is the work of self-discipline, not only to control your outer life, but to face your inner life without fear. Consider how many lives are ruined because people will not face their shadow. Marriages collapse because partners cannot admit their own insecurities. Careers falter because individuals sabotage themselves out of hidden fear of failure. Friendships end because envy is disguised as criticism. All of this chaos could be avoided if people had the courage to look inward and confront what they deny. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This is the essence of growth, not pretending to be pure, but admitting you are complex. Not seeking perfection, but seeking wholeness. For a man who has faced his shadow cannot be blackmailed by it. No insult, no criticism, no failure can destroy him, because he has already seen the worst within himself and survived it. And here lies the paradox. By facing the shadow, you don't become darker, you become lighter. You're no longer weighed down by secrets, shame, and denial. You're free to act, free to choose, free to live authentically. The shadow no longer controls you, because you have brought it into the light. What once sabotaged you is now strengthening you. So ask yourself, what am I hiding? What am I most afraid to admit? Where do I overreact? Where do I criticize others? Where do I secretly feel shame? In those places lies the shadow. In those places lies the path to strength. Don't turn away. Do not run. For the man who runs from the shadow is always pursued. The man who turns to face it finds that it's not a monster, but a teacher. If the persona is the mask you wear, the shadow is the face you hide. To truly know yourself, you must take off the mask and bring the hidden face into the open. Only then can you stand as a whole man. Only then can you begin the final step, the discovery of the self, the totality of who you are. Once you have recognized the persona and faced the shadow, you arrive at the most important discovery of all, the self. Jung described the self as the totality of who you are. It's not the mask you wear, it's not only the hidden traits you repress, it is the whole of you, integrated, balanced, and real. The self is what remains when the illusions are stripped away. It's the center of your being, the truth you've been searching for all along. Most people never reach this stage. They remain caught in the mask or trapped by the shadow. They live as fragments, never a whole. And because of this, they're restless. They chase pleasure, approval, or distraction, hoping it will make them feel complete. But completion cannot be found outside. It must be built inside. The man who discovers his self finds a kind of peace that no wealth, fame, or applause can provide. The process of individuation, the path to the self, is not a single moment of revelation. It's a journey. It requires courage because it asks you to question everything you thought you were. It requires discipline because it demands you face truths you would rather avoid. And it requires patience because the integration of the self is not achieved in a day, a week, or even a year. It's the work of a lifetime, but it's also the most rewarding work you can do. When you begin to live from the self, life changes. You're no longer pulled in every direction by outside pressures. You're no longer at the mercy of criticism or seduced by praise. You know who you are, and that knowledge gives you stability. The storms of circumstance may rage, but you remain steady. You don't collapse when fortune turns against you, and you don't lose yourself when fortune smiles upon you. You act with clarity, because your actions flow from the truth of your being. Think of the difference between a man who lives for approval and a man who lives from the self. The first man bends constantly. He says yes when he means no. He follows paths that he doesn't believe in, simply because they're expected. He achieves, perhaps, but he feels empty. The second man stands firm. He's respectful, but he's not ruled by others. He chooses his path deliberately. His victories are sweeter because they are his own. His failures don't destroy him because they don't shake his identity. He's anchored in something deeper than circumstance. This is the reward of individuation. It's not perfection. It's not the end of struggle. It's authenticity. To live authentically is to live without disguise. It's to speak and act in alignment with your deepest truth. It is to stand as a whole person, light and dark, strength and weakness, all integrated into a unity that is yours alone. Of course, there will always be pressure to return to the mask. Society rewards conformity. It's easier to please than to stand alone. But remember this, every time you choose the mask, you weaken yourself. Every time you choose authenticity, you strengthen yourself. The more you practice this, the stronger you become. Discipline here means consistency. Day by day, choice by choice, you decide to live as yourself, not as a performance. Jung believed that individuation was the true purpose of human life. Not wealth, not status, not pleasure, but wholeness, to become who you truly are. When you understand this, you stop comparing yourself to others. You stop measuring your worth by the standards of the crowd. You realize that your task is unique, to discover your own self, to walk your own path, to live your own truth. And this is why few people take that journey. It is easier to conform, easier to hide, easier to pretend. But the man who chooses the difficult path, the man who faces his shadow and sheds his mask, gains what others never will. He gains freedom. Freedom from regret, from pretense, from emptiness. Freedom to live deliberately, to act with clarity, to move with confidence. So, how do you begin? Start with honesty. Each day ask yourself, am I acting from my true self, or am I wearing the mask? When conflict arises, ask, am I projecting my shadow, or am I seeing clearly? These questions, simple but powerful, will guide you. Over time, they will lead you deeper into self-knowledge, and with self-knowledge comes self-mastery. The man who knows himself is unshakable. He doesn't crumble under criticism, nor does he lose himself in praise. He is not enslaved by his impulses, nor is he ruled by his fears. He stands steady, because he stands in truth, and truth, once found, cannot be taken away. This is the ultimate discovery, to find in your own soul the strength and clarity that others spend their lives searching for in the world. Few will ever do it, but those who do change everything. They live lives of depth, meaning, and authenticity, and they leave behind an example that inspires others to begin the same journey. So I ask you, are you content to live as a mask? Are you content to run from your shadow? Or are you ready to take the harder road, the road that leads to the self? If you are, the journey won't be easy, but it will be worth everything. For at the end of it, you will discover not just a part of yourself, but the whole. You'll discover freedom, clarity, and strength. And most importantly, you will discover your true self. Well, that's it for today's episode. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you would like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. And I'll see you guys next time.